You've finished your interviews, the raw transcripts hit the desk, and suddenly you're staring at hundreds of pages of unstructured conversations. We're going to take that massive pile of raw text and convert it into clear, defensible evidence. This 8-step framework is our roadmap for that transformation. It takes you from raw stories to meaningful strategic insights. Before we start step 1, you need 4 things on your desk: your primary research question, your raw transcripts, your chosen coding tool, and a notebook to act as your audit trail. This methodology transforms raw text into the specific, evidence-based findings required for executive decision-making. Our first phase covers practices 1 and 2, starting with the research question and immersing yourself in the data. First, take your research question and physically pin it to the top of your workspace. Every decision you make from here on must filter through that specific lens. Next, open your first transcript and read it from beginning to end. Treat it like a novel. Your only goal is to understand the broad context of the participant's experience. On your second pass, slow down. Now you're actively scanning the text for nuances, contradictions, and initial patterns that relate back to your pinned question. Do not touch your highlighter on that first read. If you try to code while reading for context, you will inevitably highlight everything and lose your direction. This multi-pass approach acts as a filter. It keeps you anchored to your objective and prevents you from losing focus on interesting but irrelevant details. Now we build the structure. This means applying practices 3 and 6, developing a coding framework, and documenting your decisions. Set up your initial digital folders, your baseline codes, to categorize the expected data. But you must remain flexible. Participants will bring up critical points you didn't anticipate. Create a space for these emergent themes immediately so you don't force data into the wrong boxes. As your framework evolves, track every change in your audit trail notebook. If you merge 2 codes or delete a category, write down exactly why you made that decision. If you lock your codes on day 1 and refuse to alter them, you force a narrative onto the data rather than letting the actual findings guide you. This audit trail makes your reasoning visible to others, allowing you to explain exactly why you prioritize certain themes over others. Phase 3 is where actual analysis happens, combining practices 4 and 5, looking for patterns and comparing continuously. The most common mistake here is the frequency trap. Just because a word is mentioned 50 times doesn't mean it is the most important finding in your study. To find real meaning, look past the volume. This visualization shows how raw counts transform into a network of relationships. You are looking for how ideas connect, not just how often they appear. Test connections by comparing your participants continuously. Where do they agree? Where do they sharply differ? What variables explain those differences? Pay close attention to outliers. A single dissenting voice can hold just as much analytical weight as the majority consensus. The deepest insights live in the friction, the anomalies, and the quiet connections between your codes. Our final phase brings us to practices 7 and 8, triangulating data and interpreting the results. This diagram represents triangulation. To validate what you found in the interviews, layer in your secondary sources, like survey data or field observations, to confirm the patterns hold true across different methods. With the data confirmed, your job is to interpret it. You have to clearly write out why these patterns exist and precisely how they answer your original research question. Avoid handing stakeholders a list of raw participant quotes. Quotes are evidence, but they are not conclusions. Synthesis translates raw human stories into the strategic language that leadership needs to make decisions. Through 8 disciplined steps, we have produced a clean, structured insights report from a chaotic pile of transcripts. This systematic framework builds a clear, evidence-based case that stands up to questioning from stakeholders. As you refine your process, keep this rule in mind. Great analysis goes beyond description. It requires you to be curious, rigorous, and above all, meaningful. Now, it's time to apply this. Grab your research question, open your first transcript, and start your initial read-through. You have the system. The power to turn chaotic stories into impactful evidence is now a repeatable part of your process.